Using discussions in a face-to-face class can be very helpful, and using them in an online class is vitally important. So we're going to look today at how to use the discussions tool in Canvas. Creating a discussion board in Canvas isn't difficult, but the settings can cause some confusion, so that's what we're going to take a look at today. I do very much recommend that you read over the different types of suggested discussion boards that are listed in the page that you clicked on to get to this video. That's very helpful information for thinking about how you want to set up discussions in your class. There are two types of settings for discussions. The first will apply to all discussions for the whole course, and then you will also fill in separate settings for each individual discussion that you create. To set up the Canvas settings for the whole course, you're going to first make sure that you're in the Discussions tab, and then you're going to click the little gear in the upper right-hand corner. This controls the settings for all of your discussions. Here you'll see a list of settings. We want to focus on the three settings under Student Settings. By default, all three of these are going to be checked. The first one, Create Discussion Topics, is the main one that I want to draw your attention to. Unless you have a specific reason why you want to allow your students to create their own discussion boards, I highly recommend unchecking this box. If you leave it checked, your students will have the ability to create their own discussion boards rather than posting to the discussion boards that you have created for the class. And we found this out the hard way when we first switched over to Canvas. We didn't realize what leaving this checked would do. And what ended up happening was, for some instructors who used discussions and didn't uncheck this box, instead of the students having to respond to a discussion post that the instructor had set up, instead they were able to create their own discussion boards by clicking this plus discussion button up here. This sort of ended up being a little chaotic because about half the class did the process correctly and replied to the post that the instructor had set up. The other half of the class went in, clicked plus discussion, not knowing any better, and created all of these individual discussion boards. And it ended up being rather chaotic for that instructor to try to weed through and then also to try to grade everyone's posts. So I really recommend unchecking this. The second option, Edit and Delete Their Own Posts, is another one you might want to consider unchecking if you're going to assign graded discussions. There's an option in the settings for the individual message boards that we'll look at in a minute that you can set to require students to post before they can read other students' posts. This helps to encourage independent thinking and generally results in a more robust discussion. But if you keep this box checked, students can just post anything, read over what everyone else wrote, and then edit their original post and change it to something that they think is better or that more resembles what everyone else wrote. So that's just something to consider unchecking that option as well. Then just make sure you click Save Settings when you're finished. When you're ready to create a discussion, you'll click this plus discussion button in the upper right-hand corner. And you're going to give your discussion a title, and then you're going to come down here and you'll give your students directions on what you want them to post about. You also have all of your rich content editor tools, so if you wanted to, you could include a video of yourself, you could include a video from YouTube or a link to an external site that you want them to comment on. So you have lots of options. Keep in mind that your students will have these same tools as well. So if you wanted them to come up with a YouTube video or give them the option of recording themselves, you can have them do that as well. You can choose a file if you wanted to attach a document. These are the individual discussion post options. So these are only going to apply to this post. So you can choose to allow threaded replies. I would always keep this checked. I don't really know why you wouldn't. This is the setting I mentioned before where you could cause users to have to post before they can see replies. And again, this just sort of makes for better conversation, more original posts, and keeps students from just kind of reading over what everyone else wrote and then writing the same idea in their own words. If you want this to be a graded post, you can click that graded box, and this is what will put that gradebook column in there so that you can put the grades in. It's also what will allow you to access SpeedGrader for this post. You could choose to allow liking if you want to. Basically, the students can give the post a thumbs up if they like it. Group discussions, we will go over setting up groups in a later video. I'll leave it unchecked for now. If this is a graded post, you'll need to put how many points are possible, how you want the grade to be displayed, and then if you have assignment groups set up, this is where you can designate what assignment group you want this discussion to go into. There's also another video on peer reviews, so we're going to leave this unchecked for now. And then down here is where you can choose to assign this to everyone. If you are teaching more than one section that's using the same course shell, this is where you could assign different sections, different due dates if you wanted to. If you needed to assign a different due date to an individual student or a group of students who needs extra time, you can click the Add button and you could give individual students their own due date. When you're finished, if you know that you're still going to need to edit it, you might just want to click Save, but if you're ready, you can go ahead and click Save and Publish so that you don't have to remember to do it later. So for most of these other tabs, we recommend that you just put everything in modules and then hide all of these other tabs. Discussions is one that you could consider not hiding. I would still definitely add the discussion for the week to the module where it goes, but you may consider allowing students to get into the discussions tab for the simple reason that you can pin discussions. So let's say that I want this discussion to stay up at the top. I can click on my kebab and click pin, and that's going to move it so that it's always up at the top until I unpin it. The rest of the discussions that are active are going to be listed in the order of the most recent activity. If you're using a virtual cafe type discussion board or an open course Q&A where students can access it all through the semester and ask questions and answer questions for each other, it's a nice idea to pin that to the top as well so that they can see that very easily and have ready access to it all throughout the semester.